Heavy rain, bright sun, and a volcanic heritage have combined to make the Philippines a fertile island nation. Fragmented from mainland Southeast Asia, Philippine flora and fauna developed unique characteristics through millennia. About half of the country's vertebrate species are found only in the Philippines, with many more said to be undiscovered. That is hard to imagine today in Manila, the center of government, media, and industry. Conditions and attitudes here help explain why Philippine biodiversity is also on the verge of collapse. The Philippines is losing its biodiversity before we can probe even a fraction of its value to humankind. We wanted to document the nation's rich natural heritage and try to understand some of the reasons why it was so threatened. But we knew at first we had to leave Manila. We went to 3 places: Mount Banahaw in Luzon, Mount Malinbang in Mindanao, and Palapag in northern Samar. All of them areas of high biodiversity, but with varying ecosystems, all of them under extreme pressure from people. Not far from Manila is the largest mountain in southern Tagalog. On our second day on Mount Banahaw, we examined a bird species that had never before been documented on the mountain, a parrot finch caught in a mist net by local scholars of Banahaw wildlife. After being measured and photographed, the bird was released. Who knows how many more species on Mount Banahaw have yet to be discovered. Dominating the landscape in the heart of Luzon, Banahaw forms the critical biogeographical link between the Sierra Madre mountain range in northern Luzon and the upper limits of the Bicol Peninsula in the south, making Banahaw a melting pot of plant and animal species from both regions. Its prime location, coupled with some of the only remaining rainforest in this region of the country, make Mount Banahaw a hothouse of biodiversity. Of the 103 known birds residing in Banahaw's forests, 55 are found only in the Philippines. 9 of those are found only in Luzon. But biodiversity is not what Banahaw is known for. It is widely regarded as a mystical and sacred place, especially by pilgrims visiting historic holy shrines in the town of Dolores, where Banahaw's slopes are populated with numerous religious sects waiting for the apocalypse. Such visions are scant motivation to preserve the pristine surroundings for future generations. But on the other side of the mountain lies Tayabas, a less visited stately town steeped in colonial and revolutionary traditions. Above its clean, narrow streets are Banahaw's slopes, a nearly intact treasure trove of Luzon's natural heritage.
Ang taga-Tayabas may salitang kinagis na yung pera, busong, yung busong. Very general ito. Yung pag sinabing busong, hindi ka nagtatapon o nagsisira ng biyaya ng Diyos.
The town has produced the Tayabas Mountaineers, a local group of young climbers who, supported by the Foundation for the Philippine Environment, or FPE, have focused their energies on documenting and understanding the mountain's rich biodiversity.
Ito yung mga nahuli namin na mga paniki
At siguro maitatanong ninyo bakit anong kahalagahan nito panghuli. Dahil nagkakaroon kami ng isang masilip na inventaryo ng mga paniki dito sa Bundok Banahaw. At pag naalaman na nga namin ito, napag-aralan namin yung kanilang mga kinakain, yung panirahan nila, masigit namin maalaman yung kahalagahan pati nila dito sa kalikasan. Ano yung kinocontribute nila. Halimbawa, karamihan sa mga nahuli namin, sila kumakain ng mga prutas. So nakadepende sila sa puno, sa mga pagkain nila. Kaya ito, pag naitala na namin, mas mapapahayag namin sa tao na dapat mapangalagaan yung gubat dahil kung mamatay ito, mawawalan na rin sila ng pagkain. Sa Banahaw, mayroong 20 uri ng mga paniki na makikita.
What makes the current research in Tayabas unique is its exploration of indigenous knowledge about the mountain's natural environment.
Una sa lahat, alam natin ang Bundok Banahaw ay isang sagradong bundok at ito ay isang lugar na may katangi-tanging kultura. Isinaalang-alang namin yung aspetong yon dahil pagpasok namin sa komunidad, napakayaman ng aming mga nakitang mga kaalaman na hindi namin naririnig sa mga pamantasan o sa mga agham na pag-aaral. Pero ito, taal at likas na bumubukal sa mga salubin ng mga tao at nakita namin kung ano epekto nito sa kalikasan. Halimbawa, yung binabanggit nila na konsepto ng mga erehiya o tawag sa banyaga ay power spots. Ito isang lugar na kung saan ang mga tao ay pinagbibili na huwag gagalaw, huwag kikibo ng kahit anong mga bagay na makakapinsala dito, kundi sila ay mabubusong o sila ay magkakasakit, magkakaroon sila ng masamang karamdaman at sa pamamagitan nitong mga konsepto nila ng erehiya, napangalagaan nila yung mga lugar dito sa kabundukan. At nakita namin, dahil kami pumunta mismo doon, dinokumenta namin yung mga lugar na yun, at talagang dalisay pa yung mga tubig dito sa mga lugar na ito, at sagana pa yung mga hayop at halaman yun.
Kapag yan yung gubat ay nasira, naputol lahat ng kahoy, lahat ng hayop aalis yung perig yan. Hanggang sa may yan mislide, yan tubig na yan, makakati na. Jadi, itong aming patubig, ng palayan ay matutiro.
Despite strong traditional beliefs that contribute to environmental preservation, population and economic pressures are creeping up the slopes.
Anong gagawin niyo po dyan sa uway?
Ay gagawin naming basket yan. Market basket, ganun. Hindi naman yung sasabihin mong panghabang buhay. Ginagawa naming market basket.
Local government officials now have new powers over natural resources. The more enlightened officials know that with a growing population, simple prohibitions on exploitation will not protect the environment.
Sabi ko nga, hanggat may tao, may mga kailangan ng puno for their houses or furniture. Pero ang approach namin ngayon, humahanap kami ng hanggat ganito pa yung environment namin, ng alternative livelihood o programs para pwede mag-coexist sa nature and at the same time may hanap buhay. Ang may nakikita namin, well, sabi ko nga, dito kami sa bayan ng Tayabas, nakadamit pa kami. Ang nakakatakot, hubad yung gilid ko, ibig sabihin ko yung bundok, o yung likuran namin hubad na. Ang threat, andun pa rin sa mga kalapit naming bayan, at maaaring sa ibang probinsya na pumapalibot pa rin sa bundok Banahaw.
Green Tayabas is a stark contrast with neighboring Banahaw towns such as Sariaya, where quarrying is savaging the rivers and farmers have been working the slopes for 3 generations. Here, the ancient pressures of survival and the modern forces of commerce have converged to rob the mountain of its bounty. The quarrying here is for the construction boom in the Calabarzon region. But even here, residents are forming people's organizations in their desire to reverse the conditions which are both worsening their poverty and damaging the environment. POs are essential for environmental renewal. Properly informed and organized, they will take action because they, more than most of us, have a direct stake in the preservation of our biodiversity.
Ang masasabi ko dito, sa kagaya namin dito sa Tayabas, kami ay realistiko sa pagtahak ng suliranin. hindi kami mahilig doon sa publisidad ng nagtanim ka lang isang punong kahoy, nakadyaryo ka na. Kasi nakakalungkot na sinasakyan din itong issue at concern ng maring politiko o maring NGO din o maring isang kumpanya na sinasakyan yung mga ganito. Pero ang totoo, nasan yung damdamin para doon? Kaya kami dito, pag tinatahak namin ito ay may realidad at may damdamin. Kasi kung hindi, ay ito isa lamang palabas. At ang isang palabas, pagkaalis ng telon, ay walang laman.
Mount Manindang in Misamis Occidental is the land of the Subanen, an indigenous people. Like many indigenous peoples, the Subanen didn't always live in the mountains, but were driven there long ago from the lowlands by migrants. Today, their ancestral domain is not fully recognized. They continue to occupy the margins of society. These ancestral domains include some of the remaining forested pockets of biodiversity in Mindanao. As inhabitants of these areas, the Subanens and other tribal peoples are the stewards of the nation's natural treasures. Much of their indigenous knowledge and culture are based on their ancient relationship with their environment. The richness of their culture flows from the abundant variety of life. But until recently, they have been regarded as little more than squatters on land they have occupied for centuries. They have suffered from policies which encourage migrant settlers to move into their traditional areas.
Inanda ko lang kung hulga na sa kanya kanina kanabuhi. Na niya apel sa Malindang kay matang dumagat na maratang linis na niya kani. Di na namin mahimo na magbabaga na niya kusog ni magalang mga istorya. So, nanda ka rin na, kaya na matang linis na niya kani magpadayon gawilan eh.
Commercial logging, population movements, and other modern pressures have changed traditional ways. Today, what were once sustainable farming practices have become destructive.
Walahi po ang pagtanaw sa mga Bisaya na anak, kay kung ilan na nang matikad, ilan na gusto sila nga mapatituluhan sa ilahang ngalan. Pero ang mga Subano dili, ila tanan. Una nga, problema gamay ang pagsulod sa mga Bisaya, kay ang kuna man nila. Samtang ang mga Subano, pag trabaho nila sa katuig, ibalhin sila lain nga lugar, biyaan nila, so mabalik na po ang lasang. Pero pagkakaroon nga, nagdaghan po ang mga misulod sa Naipas area, una hinungdan niya, padayon silang saka sa bukid pagkaingin. Pero sa wala pa ang di padaghan ang mga Bisaya, dili kayo dako ang kadaot sa lasang.
Into this bleak situation enters a ray of hope. Malindang is no longer merely a mountain, but a Naipas area. The National Integrated Protected Area System, or NIPAS, is a landmark law passed in 1992 that establishes a network of protected areas around the country intended to preserve the nation's biodiversity. It is also meant to empower local communities to be at the forefront of the effort. In a NIPAS area such as Malindang, it is an opportunity to right centuries-old wrongs. The Subanans here have a special role. The law now recognizes their rights and gives them the opportunity to document their claims to lands they have owned since time immemorial and to exercise their rights there. The NIPAS law also provides that those in or near these areas of high biodiversity have the power to protect them. The Subanen here are represented on Malindang's Protected Areas Management Board, or PAMB, which is involved in making policies that will govern this area and all who live here.
Ito ako sa PAMB sa kaayuhan, iro na kaayuhan naman ni ni bagay nila sa nami. Hindi na makpadayon kayo mapasigi ang agataw katulad na magtrabaho to sa lugar na narin sa nami kani. Samat na sa mga lagang-lagang na ginagmay, medyo ni sulbad-sulbad ganilan.
As in a number of protected areas, NGOs are mobilizing with the support of FPE to provide technical services to POs, facilitate consultations with local communities, and provide a link with government and the world at large. In Malindang, this work is spearheaded by the People's Foundation.
Human sa IOS, doon na may gihimo nga murag rolling nagtuyok sa tibok Malindang nga patol. Apil na po ni adto katong pagpili og mga area nga posible adto ibutang ang mga buffer zone area, proposed buffer zone, mga resettlement sites o katong multiple use zone. Apil na dadto sa amon survey. So kawas ni adto katong asa pagyud ang critical na lugar, dugang critical.
Kasagaraan ko na misakitan ko rin. Legal guide siguro muna anan kay hindi siya anad na ito, mas derlian pa man dyan usapi razon. Lain gari pa kung na meron sa nako dong bahin. Ay sa nilan ko na di man, nami gari no gusto. Hinihinagan na ito sa butay. Manini ni paktrabaho niya ron, natin pakatubos iro ni gandam nila na para malibre nila meron karon ato makabilin na ito dito sa nila naman na gusto.
In the struggle to attain a harmonious existence with the land, the Subanans have a long and rich tradition to draw from. The use of plants in their traditional medicine is a living link to ancient practices and proof of the value of the mountain's biodiversity. The Subanans' most sacred tradition is the buklog, an elaborate ritual involving music and dance. On this occasion, the Subanans are asking for the blessings of the gods for the trees they wish to plant. A new step the Subanans are now convinced they must take to revive their earth and ensure their survival into the next millennium.
Bahin diba sa baklog, ingat pinahinuuran nung lamig baklog kani. Sa tandang amin, gunak panahon sa namin nakakatigulangan, kana amin pumulagasyo. Bundi, sa basak tubig dima, kana namin pagkakay ng tubig. Kana namin pagbala ng puso kay kana ampiya sa namin. Musa dagon, bumamula namin na gasyo, isip mamula namin na gasyo magbaklog dagon namin.
Ay nap mami silaan doon sa namin balan nabak panagaway yak sumakal doon paksabutan ka na mo ganda na yung mga sarap na ang sarap na suaat sa namin.
Samar is the Philippines' third largest island. Despite its vast interior, most Samareños choose to live along its long coastline. Here, they have traditionally enjoyed the rich bounty of the sea. On a very rainy island, northern Samar is the rainiest part of all. It is said that there are only 2 seasons here, wet and very wet. We were lucky to be here when it was relatively dry and the waters unusually calm. Frequent heavy rain through the centuries has nourished a wide variety of life, resulting in a lush mingling of different ecosystems. The rains feed Samar's extensive river systems, which in the north of the island meet the seas in a winding maze of mangrove, a unique and valuable ecosystem. Mangroves are literally forests which grow in water. There are 31 different species of mangrove trees here, which harbor an assortment of edible animals. Samar is said to have a quarter of all surviving mangrove in the Philippines. But partly because of widespread poverty, the lack of education, and the non-recognition of property rights of long-term occupants, the environment in Samar is under siege. Communities here cut the mangrove for firewood, either for homes or the growing number of bakeries in population centers. Much of the natural mangrove is being replaced with plantations of nipa, which is used for housing. As the mangrove declines, so does the diversity of life that has given people a varied and plentiful diet. Perhaps even worse than the condition of northern Samar's mangrove forest is the state of the open seas, where the majority of Samareños derive their livelihood. Underneath the waves is the marine equivalent of a Holocaust. Much of the coral cover here has been reduced to rubble.
Ang buragba, pag napuputukan sa dilamite ton, bago tumubo otro, 400 anyos. 40 years, 40 anyos. Di matagal yun, na panahon bago marehab ito ng mga kuwan. Di siyempre, ang mga isda ito, maharayo. Maghanap naman sin kanra babalayan, makakaunan, makakaturugan, mabubunayan para makapag-multiply mangyapon, magdamo sila otro.
Saan gagamitin yan? Dito mismo? Oo.
Fishermen have been dynamiting the corals here to get at the fish for 3 decades. In some villages, more than 90% of the fishermen engaged in the practice. It is not actually dynamite that they throw overboard, but explosive combinations of over-the-counter chemical fertilizers that they mix themselves. In addition to explosives, some use homemade poisons to catch fish. The fisher folk knew what was causing the fish to disappear, but as in most places where people have open access to resources, it was everyone for themselves. No one would stop for fear that the others would finish off what was left.
Tungod na sa namo kamutangan nga waray man kami dinhi sin mga tuna, waray man kami sin mga asinda, mga 80% sini nga amo barangay Santa Lolora puro umuasala sa kadagatan. Yan ang mga digtoy nga among parapangisda na danay gumamit sin Petromax, magsusuwak la sa mga bakulod na kadakop man sin digtoy la nga isda makabalyo la singkad sa kagantang man nga bugas para sa karapagkaon.
Then in 1992, they got together and organized fishers. It was only then that they realized they could protect their waters by treating them as if they all owned it together. They have since formed Bantay Dagat teams that patrol coastal and estuarine waters, enforcing rules they agreed upon to protect their marine reserve, where only subsistence fishing is allowed. They declared one area a marine sanctuary, where not even fishing is allowed, to provide the fish a place to seek refuge and reproduce. Some are so serious about this work that they have not allowed kinship to get in the way. Mario Oreo, a deputized fish warden, even arrested his own nephew and had him jailed.
Maram sira kay an kanya bugto liwat para ko kagawad. Ngan sinunog sira mag-aram kay an balaod sa pangpangisdaan amo man ginaadman sa asosasyon sa federasyon. Siton. Pero ako ginsusunod ko la talagang tunay nga batas. Waray bugto, waray kag anak. Bisang panano asawa mo anak basta makasala. Sintensyahan para magiyahan masundan sa iba nga di na tularan.
Since Fishers was organized, there has been a noticeable difference. The fish are coming back. Fishers was born out of the fisherfolk's determination to save their sea. But it was also the product of the painstaking organizing work of Pakisama, an NGO supported by the FPE.
Tinutulungan namin dito yung samahan ng mangingisda, yung fishers o fishermen labor for the rehabilitation of the sea. Sa pamagitan ng 5 component sa pagpangalaga at pananaliksik ng ating natural resources. Sa component na research, yun ang pinakamahalagang
binibigyan namin ng diin para masagot yung katanungan, ano ang sustainable paggamit ng resources. So, yun, sa pamamagitan ng educational campaign, saka yung exposure nila sa field mismo.
Pakisama also mobilizes support from other sectors for what the People's Organization is doing. Many barangay officials are also active in fishers. The German Development Service donated its patrol boat and diving equipment. The municipal government has given financial and political support to the effort.
Our population now is more or less 25,000. So at least we should have at least 25 policemen. But you would see that ratio, 13 to 25, something like that. So our policemen could not cope up, especially in trying to maintain our costs about illegal fishers. So this time, because we mean to execute those wherein our people are vigilant.
Normal na lang antes kami mag-campaign o manakop sa mga illegal, amay din sinusap din edukasyon ng mga tao. Nagpupulong-pulong kami, kasama ng mga NGOs, para sila sumabot sa hindi pinagbabawal sa natanan. Abalaw na mo ginipasa siya, ang mag-explika. Nga ini, kay pinagbabawal nila kasi pagbuhat kay delikado.
In northern Samar, the fruits of struggle by community fisherfolk have created hope for others facing hunger because of the destruction of their environment. Their experience shows that ruining the source of local livelihood for quick gains will threaten everyone's future survival. But realizing that truth is the easy part. We saw that reversing the situation will require intensive community organizing and education, the cooperation of local officials and police, and above all, vigilance and action by a determined group of local stakeholders. Eventually, we hope to see the community's property rights fully recognized. The people involved in fishers are living evidence that it can be done. We were born in a nation with a glorious variety of life. Leaving it that way would be our greatest gift to the future.